this one if they're both up to the challenge.
Yep. It's just so hard to predict it with this man because you never know which uThermal is going to show up. But we know that if he brings his A game, it's going to be awesome. He is still representing Team Liquid. It is uThermal.
And spawning over in the top right of Jagannatha as a red Protoss representing Big, it is ShoWTimE. I love his intro, man. Did you see one of those videos where it was like getting to know ShoWTimE a bit better? Like ShoWTimE popped on the screen and then it had this proper like gangster music, like it's ShoWTimE. Like it's proper funny.
I've heard about it, but I didn't actually see it, Benny.
Could be a new soundboard thing, Kev.
All my buttons are reserved for Yona and Gabe, mate.
Yeah. Tough life, tough life. Oh, okay. Double gas opening from uThermal here. And he is the kind of Terran that can do weird and wacky stuff, but ShoWTimE goes immediately in, doesn't like just harass the SV or anything, so we'll get to have a decent scout and know he's up against something a little less than orthodox, but ShoWTimE's obviously very, very good.
Yep, ShoWTimE is more often than not going to be more than ready for whatever a Terran player tries to throw at him at first. And I don't think that uThermal really thinks there are too many scenarios where he just finds game-ending damage 3 or 4 minutes in. So I guess this is one of these Reaper Hellion openings, and then we follow it up with something feisty. I feel like that factory was a little bit later than it could have been. Not a big deal, but could have dropped it a bit quicker.
He could have, but he was actually quite smart about it. So when he saw the probe coming, he pulled an SV back that he wanted to build the factory with. Now that probe actually hasn't seen the factory, and he left all 3 guys on each gas. So ShoWTimE, he's probably thinking, all right, there's a factory on the map. I'm going to try and find out where it is, which is why this probe immediately is over to the right side. So a few mind games going here from uThermal.
I feel like if you're ShoWTimE here, you almost never drop a Twilight, right? It has to be a Stargate, and there is the Stargate indeed for ShoWTimE. It's just whenever you're not quite sure what you're going up about, like sometimes you can be stubborn and still go for a Twilight, but there are some scenarios where Twilight councils are just not that good for you. With a Stargate, you at least should be capable of being able to handle whatever the Terran throws at you without taking too much damage. So I like the attack of choice here by ShoWTimE.
Yeah, me too, definitely. Like, you can go into Phoenix, Oracle, and if things get really dicey with some Thor turning up, because right now he's totally in the dark as to what's actually happening.
Oh, this is big,
getting
though.
over here. Yeah, this is big. Now he knows he's against something very normal. He can be like, oh, a big sigh of relief comes over ShoWTimE here, realizing it's not too crazy.
I want to say I find it a tiny bit sloppy by uThermal if you had 2 Reapers there. Now, of course, if 2 Reapers are on patrol a bit further away from your natural, it is a little suspicious, and maybe ShoWTimE thinks there's a command center anyway. But it's one of these things that you really want to confirm as a Protoss player. Now he actually just got the confirmation immediately. The Adepts are going to do their best. The Hellion is sneaking in, though. Gets 1 shot off. uThermal should be able to grab a few workers here. It's just 2 probes in the end. Not a disaster, but definitely not what your sweet Terran dreams are made of.
No, you definitely looked for a bit more damage than that, but it was nicely done by ShoWTimE having the 3rd Adept literally just pop out to help deal with it. But uThermal did get the scout off, which is actually a pretty big deal.
Oh, that Widowmine is such a random spot. Like, ShoWTimE needs to be so careful with his Oracle. He may actually fly it in. Oh my god, it was so close. It was so close.
That is actually super sad for uThermal. Like, Terran tears would be running down his face right now.
I like it, though, putting a Widowmine in such a random spot, because you don't always pay attention. I'd love to see uThermal move this mine. You don't want to just lose these mines against the Adepts. Well, good job by ShoWTimE. Double Revelation gets the kill on both Adepts. And now uThermal is doing something, man, that I'm just never a fan of. Once in a blue moon, it does work. But I feel like your name needs to be Maru to pull this kind of stuff off. Going Raven against Stargate.
Yeah, I mean, seeing the Oracle, you never know whether it's going to be the Phoenix opening afterwards, and he's going to see that it's double Oracle here, which could also throw him off a little bit, but the thing is, ShoWTimE's going to be constantly getting the tags off here and getting to know what he's up against, and okay, does he actually see... Okay, didn't get to see the Starport building something, so that's at least something in uThermal's favor.
Yep. ShoWTimE is a bit ahead economically, but it's not that far. He may actually let this Shade finish up, knowing that he already picked off 2 mines, and it's unlikely there's another mine there. But he decides to play it safe, wants to keep these Adepts alive a little bit longer. The Raven is out. Is uThermal going to fly towards the top left side, or is he just going to keep it at home to potentially find an observer or something a little bit later? I don't know, man. I always get nervous when I see Ravens, but since it's only a single Phoenix, it may actually work out.
It may work out, may work out. I think it's funny, the single Phoenix, right? Like, is it literally just for drops and to stop things from happening? It looks like that is the case for ShoWTimE here. Okay, the Oracles, they're trying to get scanning information done. uThermal's base layout's been really good at trying to deny as much as possible, right?
Yep. It felt like a few times there may have been an opening for the Oracles, but that's so easy for us to say because we see everything. If you're ShoWTimE, you don't want to fly into a random mine. You know there is a Viking. You don't know if there is a Cyclone hidden somewhere. I think at this point he's pretty convinced there is no Cyclone, but this is one of these things that you can't be too sure about. One thing I am a little bit concerned for ShoWTimE is that it's going to take a little while before he has actual true power units out that can deal with Stim Bio and +1 attack. Because he's getting kind of everything at once. We have a Stargate, we have a Twilight that's getting charged, we have a RoboBay on the way. It's obviously going to take a while, Ben, before he actually has those Colossus with thermal lens and stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I'm with you there. Like, he has to worry a little bit, but this third going down, not on location or anything. uThermal looks very patient, just waiting for the +1 timing, the stim, and the combat shields, which I think is a good move. But we look at the whole picture here, and ShoWTimE's just sitting pretty, man. Maybe that double drop can get something done.
It can get a lot done, because that could actually open up the map as well, and then all of uThermal's units can make it towards the other side of the map. Now, it is, of course, important for uThermal that he doesn't walk into a stasis trap, because that could give ShoWTimE the time. But we have seen plenty of PvPs where you feel like, all right, it's all about the Colossus, then bam, interference matrix lands on that Giraffe, and the rest of the Protoss army is not going to be good enough to deal with +1 bio units with Stim and combat shields and a couple of Widow Mines in the mix as well. I mean, even though ShoWTimE has had a pretty clean game, I think this game is far from over. And in a weird way, I actually kind of like it for uThermal.
Yeah, in a weird way. By the way, Kevin, that Phoenix, he made 3 of them now. The one that was watching the whole right side of the map, it moved out of the way, and that's when these 2 drops are coming. That is super unfortunate time for ShoWTimE.
Yep, he's gonna see it now. He's gonna warp into Zealots, and he's also going to recall immediately, and that means that uThermal is gonna be forced to disengage. Oh. There is a stasis trap there. The Phoenixes are gonna start chipping away at these medevacts, but look at the mini-map. We're gonna unload here. We might lose 1 medevac, but now the entire army of uThermal has made it to the other side. There is that Raven as well. And this is gonna be a bit tricky, man. These Zealots are gonna need to get a really good fight here. If I was uThermal, I would immediately bring these Marines over. We have auto turrets and an anti-armor missile. I kind of wish you would have gone for the interference matrix.
Maybe, but it's only because ShoWTimE split so well against the anti-armor missile. Like, it was a last-second thing for him, and uThermal's push gets shut down before it even began, really. And look at that probe count, Kevin. 70 versus 49. Jeez Louise.
Yep, it felt like this should have been really hard for ShoWTimE, but he actually handled it with class and perhaps ease while investing in double forge. So 1-1 upgrades are on the way now. I think maybe instead of a double drop, this would have gone better if uThermal would have gone for a single drop, because that would have accomplished the exact same thing. Another stasis trap goes off. 2 Marauders, 3 Widow Mines, and a handful of Marines get stuck. It is safe to say that uThermal really needs to find some damage in the near future. Otherwise, I don't know how we're ever going to bring this back. But without, we don't really have energy anymore on the Raven, do we?
Nope, and ShoWTimE, he was patient, he waited, he's like, you know what, let's go. Gets on the army, he's in the speed zone as well, meaning these Zealots can get real on top, but uThermal with the 6 spread, actually. Holy crap, he's minimizing the damage from these Colossus real damn good.
Yep, I mean, it's kind of happening right before all the upgrades are ready, right, for ShoWTimE. He doesn't have 1-1, doesn't have thermal lens, doesn't have blink. Felt that ShoWTimE maybe got a bit ahead of himself there, but I guess it's okay when you're going up to 4 bases, when you've got such a big worker advantage. Don't want to do that again, because I do feel that he kind of gives uThermal some hope again in this game. But yeah, you still gotta love it for ShoWTimE. I really wish, the more I think about it, is that if uThermal would have just gone for a single drop on the right side, I think it would have accomplished the exact same, but then his army on the left would have been a lot more powerful.
I'm with you. I think that's like what Gabe does a lot, actually. It's always 1 drop, and, you know, a warp-in, forcing a warp-in away for 8 Marines as opposed to 2 or 16 Marines, it adds so much more punch, and you have to respect it just as much. So, yeah, I absolutely get you.
The 2 oracles are still alive. ShoWTimE has done a great job when it comes to unit retention. I would have lost these oracles 10 times over. He did lose 20, so, well, maybe I cursed him a little bit there. He did such a great job in keeping these oracles alive. Now one of them goes down, the other one is ultra low on HP, and it's kind of stuck. He's gonna try to save it with a recall before the Vikings show up, and he does. Okay, well, now at least he doesn't have recall for a while.
Yeah, you did curse him, Kevin. I was about to say, watching your stream, you wouldn't have made them in the first place, never mind lost them. I know you hate those bad boys just because of how difficult they are to, well, just keep alive and keep useful. uThermal getting the EMP upgrades, by the way, before an armory. This is kind of the new meta these days, and it's very, very effective.
Here ShoWTimE is a bit out of position because there was a drop on the top left side as well. Now this fourth base is going to be very exposed. That Oracle that got recalled, by the way, is dead. The Colossus is very exposed. The moment this Nexus dies, I would love to see the Marauders go for it there. I think if the Marauders steam forward, they could very well get on top of these Giraffes. 2 out of 3 go down. The other one is very low on HP. Final shots of the Marauder and it falls too. ShoWTimE is still quite far ahead in supply, but he did lose a lot of expensive units there.
He certainly did. He certainly did. I mean, he has switched out to Mass Disruptor here. So those Vikings right now are technically, well, just not as good, right? But yeah, it was definitely a good fight for uThermal. It's the best he could have hoped for in this situation.
Yep. Now we do need to worry indeed about all these Stalkers, Zealots. We have a Ghost showing up here, lands an EMP immediately. Ghost does get picked off. Sentry's completely out of energy. Here are the Disruptors going through the acceleration zone. uThermal ends up losing a Marauder and a Ghost there. I mean, the supply of ShoWTimE, geez Louise, this feels like it's not plummeting. I guess that early economic advantage is really kicking in here. And even though uThermal has done a decent job over the last 2 minutes, it seems like it's just not good enough as there is way too much Protoss here.
Yeah, I mean, that army of ShoWTimE, and it's not as if it's getting worse. I mean, 2-2 is about to kick in and GG. ShoWTimE looked really decent this game, and I think a few things went unfortunate for maybe both of them at the end of the day. But he just looked good, man. I think maybe getting a bit caught out there, like that was his entire army for just a single medevac in his main base. But overall, very well handled by ShoWTimE. So it's not an easy position to be in when you have no idea what you're up against at the start.
I think he just got himself very far ahead. Like, I think early on, getting the scout off on that command center and the Hellion. The Hellion is a great scout as well to get as a Protoss. I think that helped him, give him a nice little comfort to work with. And then obviously got himself pretty far ahead economically. And then I think the first push is where there is a lot of potential for uThermal, because the Protoss player did go up to 3 bases, made a lot of probes, dropped a Twilight, Stargate, and a Robo, and then has thermal lens and stuff on the way as well, charge on the way. But I just felt that the army on the left was not quite big enough, and I really would have preferred Interference Matrix over an anti-armor missile. Like, I think the army of uThermal is good enough there anyway. It's more about that Colossus. The Colossus is good against the Marines. The Zealots, they were not going to be good against the Marines in the first place. And the Widowmines, of course, too.
Yeah, and an Interference Matrix, and he still had enough energy on the Raver to do an anti-armor missile. He popped down the 2 turrets, obviously, which are also decent. Like, but yeah, a tough one for uThermal. Like, it is a tough one. If you consider, like, the 2 Widowmines at the start didn't really do anything as well. And it was like, oh, you're going Stargate, the initial harass. Yeah, it's a roughie. Second map here will be light shade between the 2, and I'm a little surprised that Jagannatha made it into the pool between these guys, because I think of maps that I don't really want to play against Protoss, especially ShoWTimE. I'm like, that really long one where it would take my drops a long time to go to the other side of the map. Yeah, I want to avoid that.
I mean, you want to avoid any big map, Ben. Anything that makes that 2-base attack show up a little bit quicker is more up your alley. Let's be real. I mean,
honestly, Beckett's too big of a map. Let's be real. Like, let's have more real small. I love Ben, how I turned into the all-inner in between us two, Kevin. Like,
oh, but you are, Ben.
Propaganda. I tell you.
Have you ever won a game against ShoWTimE that went over the 8-minute mark?
Absolutely.
9?
Oh, now you might be pushing it.
I know you steal some of his MMR every now and then, Ben. I'm there to see it, but I've never really seen it being done on 5 bases.
It was like, I remember quite a few games, but there was one on King's Cove, but that was some time ago, like some time.
All right, we'll see what Game 2 has in store for us between these two excellent European competitors. Let's not forget about that first mine, by the way, that almost connected with that initial Oracle. And I love how random that mine was. It was very out on the map, but that's not normally where you already look at your units as a Protoss player, unless your name is ShoWTimE, I guess. But if that first mine would have connected with the Oracle, there's also a chance we see a completely different game. So it was definitely a fun one. But in the end, it did not work out for this man who would absolutely love to at least get a map in potentially making the difference in those three-way ties later down the line here in Group A. Top left side, representing Team Liquid, it is uThermal.
And over in the bottom right, as our red toss, it is ShoWTimE. Yeah, very clean play from him all round. You know, when I first saw the one Phoenix, I was like, oh, that's definitely unusual. Then the addition of a few extra. I wonder what really, maybe he felt that, oh, I'm getting blink kind of late here and the anti-air is maybe a bit of an issue, but absolutely paid off. Do you think that's just something he does habitually or maybe against his opponent in particular?
I don't know, but I do find it very courageous. Because Oracles are obviously not great in straight-up fights, but they are great in controlling the pace of the game. But then you also go for Phoenixes that are also not necessarily great at the straight-up fight, but he made 3 of them, and then he went all the techs as well. I guess it's just Protoss things to get away with all of that, Benny, but it really does just show that ShoWTimE has a lot of confidence in his ability to play this matchup at a very high level.
Yeah, and like we think about that 2-base push as well that uThermal did, putting the 3rd obviously in his main base and stuff. It wasn't the standard 2-base push. Like ShoWTimE, after it, all things said and done, was 70 probes against 49 SCVs. He doesn't know that, but you can definitely feel that he's in good shape economically.
Yeah, and let's not forget that it also started off with a slightly later command center right by uThermal, so it wasn't Reaper fast expand like we see on this map. This is a Marine fast expand, but it was a double gas opening previous game by uThermal with a later CC after the factory. So then you already know that if you don't lose too many probes at home, you're always going to be economically ahead.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, 1 Marine reactor into the quite quick factory here for uThermal. Gets to have a scout off with the SCV as well. Like, the Marines are far more popular now than Reapers almost in TvP, I'd say. And it's mainly because if you go Reaper, it's very hard against the Void Rays. And also there are other ways to scout your opponent. And going the Reaper kind of delays all that ability to be a little bit aggressive later on, just because it takes a long time to build.
I love this. They both have their work on the high ground.
Yeah, they can see each other, you know?
No, they can't. But
well, I know they can't, but like you're looking at it, it's like, oh yeah, they're just waving from across the cliff, like, hello, mate.
But that's actually kind of cool because ShoWTimE was perhaps looking for a potential proxy starport, and I feel most of the time Terran players do build it if they spawn in the top left side at the bottom of the center. But this time uThermal decided to build it at the top side of the map, which is just a little bit less common. It's obviously slightly further away, but if it doesn't get scouted, it's absolutely worth it.
Yeah, and you can tell that ShoWTimE's actually looking for all the very obvious places that it could be. And you're totally right, that is not the normal location for it. That is not somewhere that you scout. ShoWTimE going for his own Blink Stalker opening, but we all know how good Clem is with these Hellion drops. Maybe uThermal's picked up a thing or two from his teammate.
Yep, ShoWTimE has a battery in the natural, but no battery in the main base. Now, obviously, a battery does not make the difference against 4 Hellions, but it does help, like, once, you know, you pick up 1 or 2 of them, if you don't have a shield battery at all. Now, this hallucinated Phoenix should be able to get the scout off, and that's very, very big for ShoWTimE. He could not have timed that any better, but he still doesn't have too many units, man. Just because you know doesn't mean it's going to be an easy defense, but he is going to send the units. Now, is uThermal going to do something wild, like maybe fly into the natural? ShoWTimE's still a bit paranoid, but he does have 5 units now.
He certainly does, and uThermal's just going to land in the middle of all of them, which that's definitely a play, and ShoWTimE trying to pull a few probes, which actually I don't hate at all. This medevac will go down eventually, and these Hellions are trapped. I mean...
It's not fantastic, but it's also not bad for uThermal, because ShoWTimE was also still on 2 bases. Don't forget about that. That it's not like the 3rd Nexus is done already. So yeah, big investment, but a pretty reasonable payout for uThermal, if you ask me.
I'd go as far to say as I'd be happy if I was uThermal in this position, like killing 10 probes there. I know losing the medevac sucks and what have you, but it's almost one of those things where you're like, okay, I want to get at least 8 probes. And yeah, unless ShoWTimE can either greed his way ahead, which he absolutely can now, because any tech from Terran is delayed, it's not the worst for uThermal.
Nope, not at all. And I also don't think that ShoWTimE has too much potential with his Blinky boys on the other side of the map, because I look at the setup here of the Dutchman, and I like it a lot. Whoa, okay. ShoWTimE is just going to blink behind the mineral line. I don't see this very often. And actually finds a couple of SCVs for his troubles here. Well done.
Welcome to PvP, uThermal, with the 4 Blink Stalker hit squad. Hey, it works out really nice. Anything like that can absolutely bring it back a little bit. He's got the early third, a few SCVs here and there. It's just nice play.
Yeah, now there's an observer heading towards the main base, but if ShoWTimE blinks into the main, he's going to have a very unpleasant experience, because there is not 1 tank there, but there are 2 tanks. ShoWTimE, are you going to do it? He is going to do it. He's going to blink into 2 tanks, Ben.
Is he though? All right, he's... by the way, that stim is so freaking late, man. Like, so late. It just shows you how committed this push was. And honestly, he's just testing the waters right now. It went up. He's like, dips his toes. He's like, nah.
ShoWTimE has 6 gateways in production, so he's going from 2 to 8 gateways. No forge yet, no robo bay, no extra gases. He's just gonna spam basic gateway units, which would work if uThermal moves out very early with a tiny army. But I'm looking at uThermal's setup, and I have the feeling that he doesn't want to move out with one of these armies that has like 8 or 9 Marines, Ben. I actually think his army is going to be big. So I really hope for ShoWTimE that he's A, patient, and then B, just finds the right moment for this War Prism to show up in the main, because this is technically not what you want to be doing if you're ShoWTimE.
I'm curious how this is going to go. It does feel like uThermal's got a formula where he's like, okay, this drop at this time and leaving my base in this kind of way. Oh my god, that observer. That's a really nicely placed one.
Yep. ShoWTimE not reacting yet. There is a missile turret in the main base, though. It feels... What is he going to... He's not... He really hasn't reacted at all. He must have seen that, though, right?
I mean, I think he should have. But yeah, so far, nothing. And even though it's a double drop, which I think in this game, the double drop seems really cool, even though it did get spotted. But it looks like ShoWTimE just hasn't seen it, man.
No, I'm looking at ShoWTimE's vision. I'm following his camera, and I'm looking at where he's looking at, and he really doesn't give me the idea at all that he has seen it. He's sending a probe probe to the bottom, but now he's going to be distracted with the move out. I am looking at his camera. I think he saw something red on the minimap now. The scan is obviously a bit of a heads up. ShoWTimE is going to recoil into the back of his main. War Prism flies in the main base at the same time. He's going to unload a couple of Zealots. But now the map is wide open for uThermal's army. And uThermal's army should be a little bit better than ShoWTimE's army because he has +1.
Yeah, I think uThermal has got himself into a pretty nice position here with this drop, and now he's going to exterminate a third. ShoWTimE did all this warp-ins aggressively. Mate, what a good push by uThermal.
Yep, great setup there. Now he does still need to deal with the War Prism and the Zealots at home, but he's kind of doing that. ShoWTimE did do... Oh, uThermal, you have to be a little bit careful there because your mines are not burrowed. All the Zealots run forward. Widow mines do not quite connect. I feel like uThermal can chill, man. He just killed the Nexus, but he didn't kill the probes. So I would say just try to kill all these probes before you lose this army.
You could absolutely be onto something. Maybe you're just feeling like now is the time, and getting rid of that Robo removes any chance of like a big AoE unit, which he does get. Has to be careful though.
Yep, good job there picking up the bio units with the high HP medevac. He's gonna end up losing all these tanks, all the Widow mines, and not killing the probes could honestly come back to haunt him, man, because killing a Nexus is great, but if you kill a Nexus and 20 workers, well then you win the game. Now, I feel like this is still a game. War Prism could fly into a Widow Mine, but doesn't quite do that. Let's take a look at the main base. This is still anybody's game at this point, Ben.
Yeah, obviously I feel better in uThermal's position, considering it's like a 2-base right now. But 58 probes is no joke, and he can long distance mine. It's a little bit of income. That drop at the bottom, by the way, this time ShoWTimE did spot it. Yep. So he does have a little Stalker hit squad. That could be something to absolutely get him back.
Yep, this could be a very big pickoff, especially because the only thing that ShoWTimE can really make after losing the Robo are Zealots. Seems like uThermal is paying attention a little bit, but he's not looking at the medevac right now. He's going to see the Stalkers turn around immediately. Good job by uThermal. Excellent minimap awareness.
Yeah, super good, super good. And the fact that he was patient with his boost as well, wasn't just spamming it on cooldown.
How many mines does he have? He's got 11 Widow Mines, man. There are 7 Zealots on the map and 11 Widow Mines.
Only 1 medevac, though. Like, that's a big, chunky bio army. Every stim, 10% of the health gone. I mean, or even 20% of the health gone. Wow, stim's broken. But yeah, I mean, this is a rough spot because that army of ShoWTimE, it is not made to deal with Widow Mines whatsoever.
ShoWTimE has seen this medevac again. Is uThermal paying attention this time around? No, he's not. The medevac went all the way from the bottom side of the map to the top side of the map. But ShoWTimE, his observers are the real MVP. Now, the good news for uThermal is that he still has a couple of Widow Mines laying around. So that's not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, kind of painful to lose that.
Certainly is, certainly is. And these Stalkers, hey, they've been really good throughout this game. I wonder if this is the same 4 boys from earlier that were sniping SCVs. Absolutely MVPs here.
I mean, Ben.
Are you clicking on their kills right now just to figure it out?
It's like 0, 0, 1, 1, 2. I'm like, well, are they MVPs though, Ben? But yeah, they get the medevac.
This is, you know, Protoss logic, Kevin. Like, they come back, right? Like, they resurrect and stuff.
They spawn as an immortal. uThermal's army is way out of position. ShoWTimE is going to try to pounce on it. uThermal's going to bring all his forces back. I think uThermal's army is quite a bit bigger and better than the army of ShoWTimE. But ShoWTimE, I don't think he really wants to fight. He just wants to buy time. He has an observer here. That observer is very important. It's obviously hard to be aggressive with Widow Mines, but they still get some shots off.
Yeah, certainly. I like that ShoWTimE's trying to whittle him away, right? Forcing out stims and stuff out of him. That is so much uThermal, though. But the supplies, ShoWTimE's actually handling this about as good as you can. I'm really surprised that he did so well.
Yep, it's just hard because uThermal had so many Widow Mines, but Widow Mines are not the kind of unit that you can run into or chase a Protoss army with, right? So ShoWTimE wasn't actually really fighting the full power of uThermal's army. And this is giving the German Protoss enough time to get that Robo Bay up. The first Disruptor is on the field now. Disruptors are going to be phenomenal against a Terran that's building nothing but Widow Mines. They're also good against Ghost. I think ShoWTimE has really brought this one back.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm looking at this and I'm like, you know what? He's traded out a lot of those Zealots. He's getting good, beefy units now, getting some AoE in the mix. uThermal's very good against Disruptors. I still give the edge to uThermal, especially with Ghosts in the mix. But yeah, ShoWTimE's absolutely clawing his way back into this game.
The observers that ShoWTimE has, like, it feels like he's got 7. He only has 2, but they have given him so much vision and just really giving him the heads up of where he is exactly at in this game. Now, uThermal needs to be very careful. He hasn't seen the main army of ShoWTimE in quite some time. I don't think he knows about Disruptors. He may expect that there are some, but I don't think he's going to expect to run into 3 Disruptors here, Ben. He needs to be very, very careful. He just scanned and missed the army. He still hasn't seen it yet.
No, in ShoWTimE, you see that observer kind of chasing him around. Okay, the scan reveals everything, yeah. And one thing that Widow Mines are not good against, Disruptors, Kev, they can't move.
Yeah. Oh, no! 2 Ghosts behind. First Nova is good because those are very expensive units. Everywhere we look, ShoWTimE's got an observer. He's doing such a phenomenal job in moving those things around and keeping track of uThermal's army. It's still only 2 observers, but I feel like he's getting vision like he's got 7 observers.
Yeah, it really feels like in the last 5 minutes, ShoWTimE has just come alive, right? From missing a pretty obvious drop to actually seeing everything and not missing a thing. You can really tell that he's on form right here.
Yep. uThermal realizing that maybe Mr. Mauer has a little too much map vision, so he's going to try to take away some of the eyes of ShoWTimE on the map. And ShoWTimE's got the top right up and running. He's even expanding towards the center, and it's going to be harder and harder for uThermal to find an opening, Ben, because all these Widow Mines, like you said before, they are just not good against Disruptors.
They're certainly not, and even though this Disruptor doesn't hit the bio, the juicy bio, getting rid of a Widow Mine every time, well, that's something. And ShoWTimE, look how much he has in the bottom left as well, Kevin. It's not just about this here. He's getting ready to do an attack, a massive attack with 3 Widow Mines. Oh, not the worst.
Not the best connections there for the mines, but at least ShoWTimE is going to prevent this command center from morphing into a planetary fortress for a split second. I really think it's time for uThermal to get Widow Mines, to get the Liberators, because without Libs, I just don't know how he's going to deal with all these Disruptors, man, because it's going to be one of these moments where he's going to be forced to stim and run away forever and split forever, but then your army just doesn't deal any damage.
That poor Stalker, man. That poor Stalker. That's instilling fear into your opponent where you can blow up your own units without a flinch.
I'm taking a look at the starport and what it's up to, but it's still just building a single medevac. We are getting +1 air weapons now, so it seems like... Oh, ship weapons, I should say, for the Terran. So maybe uThermal's thinking about it. I do like what uThermal's doing here, kind of trying to split up his army, but this is going to be so hard. Now, he also needs to pay attention to the army at the top. It feels that ShoWTimE has a ridiculous amount of units. uThermal's got a lot of army supply too, but he's just not able to find an opening at all.
Yeah, and I mean, behind all this, what's the economic situation? ShoWTimE moving up to his 5th base. Probe count isn't super high, but he is entering that Dark Shrine phase of the game. uThermal was very quick to spot this Warp Prism, by the way. Already got an army here ready to greet it.
Yeah.
They're both playing well.
Yeah, they absolutely are. I do still feel that uThermal missed a massive opportunity when he had that successful drop in the main. If he would have killed those 20 probes, Ben, I don't believe that ShoWTimE would have been able to turn this into the game that it's actually becoming. I mean, we are the real winners here, because this is obviously very fun to watch, especially now that uThermal's getting Liberators as well. He needs to be very careful. There are armies getting close towards each other in the bottom. Good target fire on the Disruptors. Both of them get picked up. Maybe uThermal can get a decent trade there. Look at these Marauders go. My goodness.
Absolutely. Disruptor tries to come in from the back. Oh, lifts up. Oh, these Disruptors get... I mean, he's getting some juicy connections now after whiffing a lot of the game, but uThermal will beat this back. And this is a very brittle army from ShoWTimE.
Yeah, the other medevacs have shown up again. Not too many units survived that clash in the bottom right, but at least a few Marauders did. uThermal got lucky there because he did lose 2 medevacs, but fortunately for him, those were the empty ones. I mean, at this point, I think the supply is a little bit deceiving, right? Because ShoWTimE has a lot of Stalkers. So if uThermal is able to get a few more Liberators and a few more Marauders, Stalkers alone are not going to do it. The Disruptors, though, they obviously always can make the difference.
Absolutely. And here, beautiful snipe on that Disruptor there. And ShoWTimE, he's being so aggressive here, man. The Disruptor shots, first one was decent, maybe the second one a bit overkill, but ShoWTimE's going to try and back off out of here.
Finally, uThermal is going to take care of one of these observers. That's going to help. Marauders chasing down the Stalkers. uThermal's getting a really phenomenal trade here towards the end. And the clunky boys kind of blocking each other in the center. So uThermal gets a few more Stalkers for his trouble and decides that this is the moment to disengage. He has done such a good job in killing Disruptors. It actually says that ShoWTimE has lost only 4 Disruptors. Well, it felt that uThermal picked off a few more, but just an excellent game here between these two. This is StarCraft, Benny. You gotta love it.
I mean, you've got to. Like, they're really both doing what they do so well, right? Like, ShoWTimE surviving the onslaught, and uThermal, some of his micro in these fights has been phenomenal. Like, but the game's kind of been reset a little bit, and they're both getting into this position where it's like, all right, we're both bringing out our big weapons here. Ranged Liberators on the way, Blink DTs. This is true late game here.
Yep. Would you like to see uThermal float over his orbital towards that base at 11 o'clock?
I think that could be a move. It's always a bit scary when your opponent's pushing you with so many Stalkers that, you know, it's nice to have it as a scan because you never know when DTs are going to show up.
Oh, they are going to show up real soon. And Shadow's Stride has finished up, but Liberators are getting close to their ballistic or advanced ballistics finishing up too. And we're going to see some justice rain from above, something that sparks joy in the heart of Terran players around the world. uThermal sending a couple of buy units towards the bottom left to take care of a single very annoying Zealot. I like that he keeps a few Widow Mines around these bases. First DTs are going to show up though. Let's see if uThermal responds immediately with a scan. Yes, he does throw it on a scan. They have Blink. They could Blink.
And they do. Wow, I mean, very, very good use of DTs, I think. Getting a few kills, forcing out some scans as well. uThermal does eventually hunt some down, but this is when it gets super hard for you as a Terran.
There are 4 Widow Mines right next to that command center. 1 mine goes off. I mean, a lot of Zealots are going to go down. Good job by ShoWTimE running the Zealots into the SCVs. And he's going to pounce on his army from 2 angles. At least uThermal gets out. Whoa, the Disruptor's kind of left behind. They actually get a decent shot. This is ambitious by ShoWTimE. And uThermal will just leave as his supply plummets to 150.